it's Jaya, and it's still Pride Month, so I'm gonna do another LGBT video because, you know, it's Pride Month. So it's unfortunately true that not everyone really understands sexuality and gender, and most people don't really do research on it unless they're truly passionate about it or they're questioning. To be honest, I don't know a lot about every sexuality and every gender either, but I know a lot about my own, so I figured I'd explain. So today's particular topic is asexuality. I myself am asexual, and when you break it down, it basically means that I don't feel sexual attraction. Because the definition of asexuality is someone who does not feel sexual attraction. A shorter term for asexual is ace. So asexuality is a spectrum. Yes, we have our own spectrum. So while the allosexual spectrum, which is the spectrum of people who feel sexual attraction, goes from homosexuality to heterosexuality and all the kind of things that fall in between and encompass all of that, the ace spectrum goes from feeling sexual attraction to feeling absolutely no sexual attraction. Straight up asexuals fall on the line of no sexual attraction whatsoever. But there are also a lot of in-betweens. Those people are called gray asexuals, which means maybe they felt sexual attraction maybe once or twice in their lives, but for the most part they haven't. There's also something called being demisexual. Demisexual is not feeling sexual attraction until you formed a strong romantic bond with a partner or someone who you are attracted to. And a lot of people say like, oh, that's the way it should be. And yes, I agree that's the way it should be, but that's not how it is. A lot of people base their attractiveness and their choice in partner based on sexuality, sexual attraction, which I never understood, but probably because I've never felt sexual attraction. So there are a lot of misconceptions about asexuality and the asexual spectrum. So I'm here to clear that up. First misconception is asexuality is the same thing as celibacy, which is not true at all. So celibacy is when someone feels sexual attraction but makes the active choice not to act on it for religious or moral or just personal reasons. While asexuality is a sexuality, it's a lack of sexual attraction that comes naturally. So saying asexuality and celibacy are the same thing are very different, because celibacy is a choice, asexuality is not. Second misconception is that asexuality is a new fandangled thing that Tumblr made up for straight people to feel special. That is not true. Although asexuality is very new to the public, the concept was actually kind of discovered in 1933 by Alfred Kinsley. Alfred Kinsley actually went around to study different people's types of sexual attraction, ranking them on a scale from heterosexual to homosexual. But there were some people he discovered that were not on the spectrum and were referred to as the sexuality of X because they didn't feel sexual attraction. Although asexuality is more public now than it was then, it always existed. Third misconception about asexuality is that aces are just confused straight people that don't really belong in the LGBT community. This I actually touched on in my previous video. A lot of people, even in LGBT spaces, are very exclusionary of aces, especially heteroromantic cisgender aces, because they're basically straight, which isn't true. Aces aren't straight. We belong in the community just as much as the rest of you do. And I've been seeing a lot of people talk about how aces are just kind of whiny and they don't respect all the suffering the rest of the LGBT community has gone through. And they're just like, oh, we're worried about our own visibility and we think our problems are worse than yours, when really, no. We understand that the people in the asexual LGBT community and the trans community have gone through a lot more difficult struggles than we have. And we understand that, and we respect that. And we praise you for being so strong and resilient. But we are also worried about our own visibility and how people don't really know what asexuality is, and people don't really see us as valid. Although our problems are not as difficult and immense as yours are, we still deserve validation. And a lot of people who say that are forgetting that there are people in the LGBT community that are homoromantic and biromantic and trans spectrum. Just because you're also ace doesn't mean you can't be oppressed for other things. So the aphobia is really, really strong lately, and it's gotta stop, because it's really counterproductive to discriminate against people who are already struggling enough in a place where they should feel accepted. So the fourth and most common misconception is that aces can't be in love or have sex or have relationships. Asexuality is about a lack of sexual attraction. That's it. It's basically, I don't look at a person and say, I want to have sex with them because they're hot. Or at least that's what I think sexual attraction is like. I mean, I don't know, I've never felt it. So this brings us on the topic of romantic attraction. So romantic attraction is different than sexual attraction. Most people feel both, but if you're ace, sometimes you only feel one. For every sexuality, there's a coinciding romantic identity. Usually people's romantic orientations and their sexual orientations line up and are the same, but that is not always the case, especially when it comes to asexuality. Although yes, there are aromantic asexuals, not all asexuals are aromantic. And on the topic of asexuals having sex, once again, asexuality is a lack of sexual attraction, but that doesn't mean they absolutely can't have sex, it just doesn't work. No, some asexuals do have sex, because, you know, apparently sex is nice. There are sex repulsed aces, and there are non-sex repulsed aces, and there are people who are in between. Personally, I am sex repulsed. I don't like the idea of me having sex. It just kind of weirds me out. And either way, I don't feel sexual attraction, so I don't really see the point in it. But other asexuals might. So I hope you have a better understanding of asexuality and you learned something new and you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, there's the comments below, or you can send me an ask on my Tumblr, JS Goggles. So if you did like this video, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you later, my dudes. Bye.